Welcome to the MeidasTouch Network. We are joined by Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz. Congressman Moskowitz, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back.
All right, let's get right into it. So it turns out, since we last spoke, that the so-called missing whistleblower that Republican Oversight Committee Chair James Comer and the other Republicans said had damaging information on President Biden is actually not a whistleblower at all. It's Gail Luft, an indicted fugitive, an unlawful agent of China, and an unlawful arms dealer of Iran and Libya. You've written 2 letters now to various committees. You've given an impassioned speech during one of the committee hearings. Republicans seem to be doubling down. So what happens next, Congressman?
Well, first of all, here's the great news for my Republican colleagues. Their missing whistleblower has been found. We found him, right? So congratulations. We found him. The bad news, as you mentioned, is this whistleblower is, first of all, a Chinese foreign agent working for the Chinese government. He is doing business with the Iranian regime, the Supreme Ayatollah doing business with the Iranian regime around U.S. sanctions on Iran. And let's not forget, Iran is one of the largest sponsors of terrorism around the world. And also he's selling illegal Chinese weapons to the Libyans. And so if you like Tom Clancy and those novels, then you're going to love Gail Luft because he is, part of that dark underground of illegal weapons sales. And so this is who their whistleblower is. I've written 2 letters, one to the China Select Committee. I am deeply worried that in the oversight's investigation of Hunter Biden and, in the effort to try to own Hunter Biden, that they have maybe wittingly or unwittingly been forwarding information to the American people that is coming from a Chinese foreign agent. And so I think the China Select Committee needs to look at that to examine the information. I've also sent a letter to the chairman of Foreign Affairs because the idea that our whistleblower is doing business with Iran and Libya deeply concerns me from a national security standpoint. And so, this is what they've stooped to. You mentioned that they're doubling down. Of course they're doubling down. What are they going to say? Oops, you caught us. We're doing, our Hunter Biden whistleblower is a Chinese agent and sells weapons, Chinese weapons to the Libyans. And oh, by the way, he's a big fan of the Supreme Ayatollah. What are they going to say? So, of course, they're going to double down. They're doubling down by saying this is great news for our investigation that the Justice Department has indicted our witness because it shows we're on to something. Well, we are on to something. If you're looking to buy weapons on the black market, we're definitely on to something. The Republicans have definitely stumbled upon that. And so, look, this is par for the course with what Comer's been doing all year to try to make Hunter Biden, the focus of everything that's going on in oversight. They will stoop to such levels that they will literally elevate someone who's working for the Chinese and doing business with the Iranians.
But it seems that they're keep on going to enemies and interests that are hostile, right? The last one was a kind of Putin-linked oligarch. Now they're going with an unlawful agent of China. I mean, what's next? I mean, this is dangerous stuff, though, right? That they are actually using these congressional committees to, it seems, aid and abet and amplify really serious criminals who so obviously want to cause harm to our country.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if we were investigating Donald Trump Jr. or Jared Kushner and we were bringing Chinese foreign agents and people doing business with Iran? I mean, they literally would talk about, treason and, people should be removed from Congress. They would go crazy. But this is where they're at, right? This is where MAGA is at. The 118th Congress has been held hostage now by the Freedom Caucus. They're in control of everything that happens on the floor and in committee. They're pushing the agenda. And listen, for them, there is no floor. Let me tell this to your viewers. There is no floor. Just when you think to yourself, it can't get any worse, I guarantee you it's going to get worse. We're not even close to the election yet. Just wait till we get closer. Wait until we get into 2024. I can't imagine the people they're going to bring in front of us in this effort just to try to, go after the president's son. And so this is where we're at. I mean, next week we got, anti-Semites coming to, the weaponization committee with Robert F. Kennedy. So you got, anti-Semites with Robert F. Kennedy saying, COVID was engineered not to hurt the Jews. And you got this guy who's selling weapons to the Libyans and working with the Iranians on behalf of China. You cannot make this stuff up. This is where the United States Congress is today. And it's just really a shame to the giants who served in this institution.
You've called on Chairman Jim Jordan of the Judiciary Committee to disinvite RFK Jr. from testifying before the House Select Weaponization Subcommittee this week after his recent anti-Semitic comments about COVID-19, possibly being ethnically targeted to spare Jewish people and targeting certain ethnicities and races and nationalities. Can you talk to us about this request that you made to Chairman Jordan?
Yeah, so Robert F. Kennedy, who's been going around talking about different conspiracies, decided to take one up that's being spread by white supremacists. There are leaflets that get handed out in communities all across America. It's been going on for months, blaming the Jews for COVID-19. Okay, everyone who's been paying attention knows that COVID-19 came from China. So here's this guy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., this brilliant person running for president, and he says, you know what? Actually, COVID-19 was engineered to hurt white people and black people, but it was specifically engineered not to hurt Jews and the Chinese. I'm sorry. It came from China. It killed scores of people in China. They shut their country down multiple times. They had COVID-only hotels. My entire family, by the way, Ashkenazi Jews, my entire family got COVID, okay? I know many Jewish families that got COVID. Whole Jewish communities got COVID. It ran through the Orthodox community. They all got COVID. This is such garbage, but it is a string of stepped up anti-Semitic attacks and conspiracy theories we've seen against the Jewish community. And the idea that Jimmy Jordan wants to elevate him in committee, it's all about trying to hurt Joe Biden in the election. Let's elevate this anti-Semite because maybe it'll cost, Joe Biden a couple of points in the primary. So what I've done is I've asked the chairman to disinvite him. But if he will not disinvite him, what I've asked the chairman to do is allow me to wave on to the committee. Come on, Jimmy. Let me wave on to the committee if you're listening. All right. And let's have a real debate on why we're elevating someone telling the American people that COVID-19 was engineered to hurt whites and blacks, but it was specifically engineered not to hurt the Jewish community. It is super dangerous. Junior is the most dangerous person running for president right now to spew this sort of stuff. And Jim Jordan should either not let him come, or he should let members like myself come to the committee and challenge this nonsense that's going to be spread in the halls of Congress and in committee.
So from spies to China to dangerous conspiracy theorists being invited to Orwellian weaponization subcommittees. I also
it's
want
like
to talk
Congress
about
the video game, right? Like if Congress was a video game, this would be the different levels as you're getting to the big evil boss.
And that brings us to the National Defense Authorization Act, something that's usually approved with bipartisan support. But now you've got the Republicans, the MAGA Republicans, putting all of their culture war issues through these various amendments, and a lot of them passed. Some of them didn't, but they put things in there like you can't have diversity, equity, and inclusion training in the military, where the military is comprised of 42 to 43% or so people who identify as minorities. There's a provision in one of the amendments saying that you can't have payments for women's reproductive care. And now this goes to the Senate. I mean, this passed the committee 58-1 before all the MAGA Republicans put in these amendments. It then passed on the House floor. Now it goes to the Senate. You've got Kevin McCarthy putting Marjorie Taylor Greene on the Reconciliation Committee. I mean, again, dangerous stuff. What happens next year?
Well, this one's actually really unfortunate, right? Because this is the National Defense Authorization Act. This is defending the United States. It's making sure that we can defend our allies. It's making sure we can keep the American people safe. It's making sure we keep our superiority over China, which is something the Republicans claim is one of their top priorities. And here is a bipartisan bill. They did a good job getting this out of committee. My Republican colleagues working with the Democrats, 58-1, sending a message across the world that even though we have a partisan divide when it comes to our national security, we are one, and that, we're going to make sure that we get a bill passed that represents all the American people. But yet, nope, they couldn't help themselves, right? They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, again, because the Freedom Caucus was going to hold it up by not voting for the rule. And so they caved to the Freedom Caucus. And what wound up in there is taking away health care from our female soldiers that are serving at home and abroad. It is, allowing maybe Confederate flags, or making sure that we don't rename things after Confederate generals. That's in there. As you said, no diversity, not allowed to talk about diversity. In fact, don't even push diversity, which, as you know, in some places that we have to deploy, it is a national security issue to have diversity and to have cohesion within a unit. And so they put the culture wars that's going on in the Republican primary for president right now and threw that into the National Defense Authorization Act. By the way, you know what they did? They took all of those bipartisan amendments, like for cancer and for all these other things, and they threw them out because now the bill goes over to the Senate. The Senate's not going to take any of this garbage. The Senate's going to wipe this out. This is now going to go to a conference committee. And most of this garbage, if not all of it, will be gone. And then the bill is going to come back. And you know what? We probably will pass it on a bipartisan basis at that point. Okay. And the Freedom Caucus is going to abandon the speaker then. And so what has been accomplished here other than delaying what we need to do on a timely schedule, which is getting the National Defense Authorization reauthorized as we do every year on a bipartisan basis. So by the way, the Senate's now in charge of this. The House has kicked this to the Senate with something that they're not going to take. So now the Senate's going to really decide what we're going to pass, which, by the way, if you're out there and you're going to think to yourself, fine, the Senate's more moderate, that's great for the American people, and you might be right, but as a House member, the idea that we would weaponize this with political garbage to send over to the Senate, it's just extremely disappointing when this is something that passed 58-1. But hey, look, never miss an opportunity to inject partisanship and continue to destroy the institution that is the United States House of Representatives.
And speaking of injecting partisanship and injecting culture wars into everything, I want to talk about your home state of Florida and specifically Ron DeSantis, because, unfortunately, Florida has the not so great distinction right now of being on a list of the 10 worst places to live. And it says based on kind of quality of life and healthcare and freedoms. Florida, for the first time, the great state of Florida, made that list in large part due to Ron DeSantis's policies. We're hearing about insurance companies, whether it's farmers and others who are fleeing the state. And all we hear from the DeSantis administration is things like, oh, they're going to be like the next Bud Light. We're going to cancel them. We're going after them, but no real actual policy. So look, you've worked at every level in Florida government. You've led their disaster relief programs. You've worked with DeSantis before. What are you seeing in the state, and what do you think needs to be happening in Florida?
Well, first of all, I love how the Republicans now have just totally embraced cancel culture. They used to go after this woke ideology, like, oh, like all the left wants to do is cancel Chick-fil-A. Meanwhile, now the right is canceling Chick-fil-A and Target and Maybelline and Bud Light and anybody they disagree with, just totally going for cancel culture. So when they talk about the woke ideology, listen, that's them now. Okay. They used to be for small government. Nope. Now government in the bedroom, government in your lives, government in your business, government in Disney World. Let's put a jail next to Disney World, right? I mean, come on. And so I don't know what word we want to use, but when they use the word woke, I mean, it looks like they're describing themselves now based on the stuff that they're pushing. So look, Florida is in a good and bad spot, right? We got 1,000 people a day moving to Florida. The economy is good in Florida. And so, there's a lot of good bright spots that's going on right now in Florida. If you're a fan of Florida sports, right? We had the Panthers and you had the Heat, both in the finals and the Stanley Cup. We just got Messi, is on for soccer. And, maybe we're going to get Damian Lillard on the Heat. And maybe we're going to get Cook as a running back, for the Dolphins. But man, if you're looking at policy and you're looking at, quality of life, then yeah, what the Republicans have been doing in the legislature for the last year and a half has pushed us to be one of the most conservative states, that is in the country. And this is all because there's a thought process that you can get to the right of Donald Trump. And so let me say it again, because I've been saying it, quite frankly, since the governor was talking about, running for president. There is no such place as getting to the right of Donald Trump. It does not exist. Okay, getting to the right of Donald Trump, you fall off the flat earth map. Okay, that's where that place is. There is nobody right now that's out there thinking to himself, I'm voting for Donald Trump, but man, the governor just passed a 6-week abortion ban. I'm thinking of leaving Trump and I'm going to go the other direction. It's not going to happen. And so, unfortunately, the state's been taken hostage in a presidential campaign between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. And it's going to take a generation to undo the damage that has been done with 6-week abortion bans, all this stuff going on with books, all this stuff going on with interfering with businesses. And so, look, we're going to have to see if there are Republican state senators or Republican House members that want to continue this trend, right? Because, by the way, they're not done, right? I mean, this is going to continue now, and Floridians have to stand up. I mean, the governor had a resounding victory, won by 19 points, the largest reelection in Florida history. Can't take that away from him. But follow that up with some of the most conservative policy the state has ever seen. Democrats won the mayoral race in Jacksonville thereafter, taking that back from a Republican mayor. And so Democrats got to capitalize on that because it's not just about, whether people are moving to the state of Florida. It is about our kids and about our communities. And you said about the insurance issue. This is one of the largest failures, unfortunately, of Republican leadership over the last decade in Florida. This is not something that happened overnight, right? We've known this has been coming. They went after trial lawyers to try to bring down the cost of insurance, but did nothing with the insurance companies, did nothing to really tackle the issue. The computers are telling these insurance companies that Florida is not a good bet, right? All the algorithms are blinking red and saying, look, this is a hurricane-prone state. By the way, it's always been a hurricane-prone state. My own insurance company dropped me about 8 months ago and said, we're dropping you because your house is prone to hurricanes. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you insured me when it was prone to hurricanes. So look, this is why I filed a national insurance catastrophic bill, because I think this is a federal issue. It may be starting in Florida, but this is going to come to Texas. This is going to come to Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama, and it's going to go up the East Coast. Because, by the way, to my Republican colleagues, weather is getting more extreme. Have you been outside recently? A little warm out there, right? Have you seen the flooding going on? So we're going to have extreme weather in places that aren't used to having extreme weather, where the infrastructure is not built for that, and where the people aren't as educated on how to respond to those things and recover, because they've never had to deal with that before. And so Florida may be the tip of the spear in this, but this insurance crisis is coming, and it's a direct result of climate change.
And finally, we've talked a lot about, I think, the damage that MAGA Republicans are doing in the House of Representatives. Can you paint a picture, though, for all of the Meidas Mighty out there who watch this, everyone who watches our network, just in general, like what would a Democratic controlled Congress look like? If the Democrats were controlling the oversight committee that you're on, or the Democrats were controlling the Judiciary Committee or other committees, maybe just paint that vision of what that looks like in contrast to this dystopia that I think we've just been talking about.
Well, the first thing I would say, let me tell you where MAGA is today, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene is too woke for the Freedom Caucus. She's too progressive, right? So they threw her out of the Freedom Caucus, okay? And so if you want to know where they are, when Marjorie Taylor Greene is too liberal for the Freedom Caucus, I mean, what are they? Are they going to bring back witch burnings in the Freedom Caucus? Like, is that where they're headed? And so that's the state of what's going on in Congress right now. Look, what would Democrats bring back? How about, let's just start with normalcy. That's a good one. What would we be looking at oversight? Look, I think there's lots of things we could be looking at, right? We could be looking at trying to get Congress working again. Yeah, I think the federal bureaucracy has gotten too big. I think a lot of the agencies are passing rules that they shouldn't be passing. That should be brought into Congress. But we can't do that unless Congress is actually going to pass laws and work again. I think we would be passing laws to make sure that we codify Roe v. Wade into law, right? The idea that a 50-year right was taken away from women across this country, I think we would codify that in the House. I also think we would be doing stuff for small businesses, right? Small businesses need all the help they can get. They got to compete against larger corporations that are continuing to consolidate. Got to help small businesses. I think you would see us doing stuff on housing, right? Home values have become so expensive. Loans are very high now because of the Federal Reserve raising interest rates. We would probably help homeowners try to achieve the American dream. The good news is the economy is getting better. Inflation is down, right? Joe Biden did that, not the House of Representatives. He did that with the Inflation Reduction Act. So because the economy is getting better, I would tap into that, to try to continue to make the lives better for the American people. And what would the judiciary committee do? We would be making sure that we protected democracy in this country. We would be making sure that we had free and fair elections, and we made sure that there wasn't, election interference from whether that's folks within the halls of Congress, Donald Trump, or folks, across the ocean. And so, that's what Democrats would be doing. We would be fighting for families and kids and for freedom. Get government out of your bedroom, get government out of your business. I mean, it's amazing how we've come full circle from Ronald Reagan, where Democrats are now advocating that Republicans are the ones for big government and government in your life and government in your bedroom. And we're the ones who want to be talking about independence and freedom and family and, success, getting a job and making sure you're paid a fair wage and making sure if you're a small business owner, you can succeed and making sure that you have the rights that you deserve under the Constitution. That's what a Democratic Congress would be like.
I like it. Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz, thank you so much for joining us on the MeidasTouch Network.
Good to see you again.
Love this video? Then you'll love the MeidasTouch podcast. Listen as my brothers and I break down the latest news and chat with top political leaders on the fastest growing pro-democracy podcast in the world. New episodes drop every Tuesday and Friday. Add the MeidasTouch podcast right now wherever you listen to your podcasts.